Hey, good morning. So today I wanted to talk about some of my, resolutions for the next year. Not just 2026. Specifically from like today, the day after my birthday to my next birthday. Kind of like what I want to kind of like get done this year. And I think number one is I want to finish my novel. I already established a deadline for myself, so I kind of want by June of next year to be to have finished the novel, and I would have also liked to have started like the fourth one. And last year when I finished the second one, I ended up taking some time off. Basically, I think that right after I finished, I already had like some ideas that I wanted to put out there, but so like I would like to make some investment, but if I make no progress, that's okay, because like I want to also kind of like prioritize my mental health. I mean, technically I've been doing that for like a while now, but I do hope that it's next year I become like less vulnerable. I hope that through my own personal efforts and therapy and everything, I learn to be a little more resilient in some ways, and that things I don't want things to bother me so much. So that is one of the things that I kind of want from like next year. So I want to basically continue the journey that I'm already on, which involves me kind of this de-escalating situations, and not being so being a prey to my own emotions. So that is kind of like my personal, I know this sounds very vague, but it is because I don't know if I have like any specific actions that I want to take. It's going to kind of like happen as things like it's going to go as things happen. And I kind of like I just want to have made progress. And I will say, like, I think I can trust my senses right now in terms of like me being able to figure out whether I've done a good enough job. So it's going to be very, I guess, like feeling based, very like vibes based, my whole like improvement. But as I said, like I think I have a pretty realistic assessment of myself, so it's not going to be a problem, I think. So as I said, so it's not awful. And also like I'm going to start a new kind of like course, new college course next year. And I want, as I mentioned before, to make more of an effort to try and make things work out. I don't necessarily, I don't want to also like freedom, like if I do it and I realize that's not the thing for me, I will be changing my course. But like before I get to that point, I want to kind of like get to something that I can do better, because this past few years I've been really struggling with college, with like being engaged in the things that I'm studying, and having, and naturally like I've had many episodes that have lasted weeks, months, and like that gets in the way of me producing. But I do sense that I am going to start next year at a better place mentally. I hope to continue the pace that I am at right now. So there's that. So as I said, like, so the book, my mental health, college. Also, I maybe, I want to see if I can kind of like get back in the market, and find something job related to like whatever it is that I'll be studying. I don't know, like maybe like it's time for me to get back to things, and I don't know if like that's going to be possible, particularly because like sometimes like I had this period where I am doing well, I am like stable, but then a period of instability comes after that, so I go back to square one, and that is like there's nothing wrong with that. I want to be kind to myself, and I want to be more truthful to my with myself, and I want to be more open with the things that I want, because I think that there is a lot of stigma around some of the things that I want to try, that I want to do, things that involve me being more vulnerable, things that involve socializing, and basically I don't want to like I want to put myself out there, and I want to make an effort, because that is also something that has not really worked out in the past, because basically I didn't I wasn't willing to make more of an effort to make things reciprocal. So that is something that for me to look forward to. And as I said, so I kind of like I don't want to feel shame about the things that I want. I don't want to feel shame about the things that I that I want to do, that I want to be. And I've been making a whole lot of progress lately, but it is the type of thing that there's still some things that I'm not saying here aloud, because I'm kind of embarrassed that like I want that, particularly because some of this I've been so adamant for so long that I didn't really want those things that I want to have those experiences. So I want, to feel freer, to just, say out loud the things that I want, and, to make them happen, because that's also the thing that I mentioned. I feel like in a lot of different areas of my life, I've been kind of like just waiting for things to happen, and like they never do. And I think that gets me kind of like discouraged. So I want, to do my part. To make sure that things happen, and that is going to be a long process, because old habits, they die hard, and I'm having to open myself up, just being vulnerable and having to face the possibility of failing, of being rejected, of being put down. And basically I want to be confident enough that like those situations don't bother me, and I think that like I'm the right path, because basically increasingly more things don't bother me. And I had like a good example this past week with me hearing some things from like this religious religious environment, and I was dealing with it much better than I used to. So there's already progress in the way, and I don't know, like I don't know what the future holds for me. I don't know necessarily what is going to happen or not, but I think I mentioned before, for example, I want to expand my relationships. I want as I said, like I want to do more. It's going to be a new experience for me, because historically I have not really done that. It's been very like one-sided, for my part, and I think that relationships can be an anchor. Basically, I want to have more anchors. That's also something I want for this year. I want that by November next year, I have more things keeping me grounded, keeping me stable. And I don't really know what else is going to happen, or how it's going to happen, but I do want to I want to try more. I think that I want to try more and try harder, even if it turns out that it doesn't work out in the end, I still want to make an attempt, and this goes from like small things to like bigger ones. Small things such as, let me think of an example. I don't know, I want to I want to work on my self-control, particularly with food. I want to develop like better habits. I want that by November next year I have been able to reach my ideal weight, but also that I have been able to maintain it. I want to, because naturally I'm going to have some exceptions. Some days where I'm going to eat a lot. Yesterday was a good example, but it was my birthday, so that's okay. So I really do want to kind of like work on my compulsion, because I need better coping mechanisms, and I think that I've been kind of like I'm very well things are like they are walking towards that goal. I'm already doing better in terms of compulsion, and so that is also something that I want to do. And I want healthier habits. I think that I have already started like doing more, because I have my swimming class twice a week. I have my swimming lessons, not really lessons, but twice a week, and I have my little machine that I've been doing like every day, and being almost a week, and that is my my thing for the future. I want to continue doing that, because I think it's a great way for me to start my day. Also, like I've been stretching out, and I want to continue to do that. I'm doing it after my hour in my little machine, and so I want by the end of next year, I mentioned this, to be able to reach my toes, and also like when I'm standing up, when I'm seated, I also want to be able to because I think that some of like the shortening in my limbs is for my torso, so I want to do better. So yeah, there are like things that I want health wise, and so I want to have good habits. I want to have good exercise habits, good eating habits, and because like I'm gonna turn 29 next year, so I'm 1 year away from 30, and like your metabolism, it doesn't things start to go downhill when you turn 30. So what I want is to kind of like establish good habits that I can maintain when I'm older. And I mentioned before, like food is like a huge thing for me, because I struggle a lot with kind of like compulsion, and so my self-control isn't always great, but so I want to improve my self-control in general, so with eating, yes, but like also with the things that I say and do, because I mentioned before, like because I do think that if I create better habits, like when I'm like stable, even when I'm manic, I'm not going to have certain actions, because so I want to try and control both things better, like if I have an episode, both like manic and depressed, or depressive. So that is, also a goal that I have, because, I hope I don't have any episodes, but it's very unrealistic for me to expect this. So if I do have, like these episodes, I want things to not be as bad as, they have been in the past. But that is also something I want for myself, and I think that it is important for me to, for me to kind of like work on this area of my life, because, like the extremes, they are hard to, work. But, usually there's a bit of, sometimes I think about depressive episodes, they have kind of come out of nowhere, but there is kind of like a bit of a curve in terms of like, how intense they are. So I kind of like want to work on myself on those moments. I'm not so in the extremes, so that, I because the thing about whenever you have an episode, like you can change your medication immediately, but it does take a little while for things to work out. And that is so like in those periods where like things are happening, I don't want to have extreme reactions to things. I don't want to be in these extremes, when it comes to like my reactions. And as I said, like this is easier said than done, so I know that it's not necessarily going to work out like that, but I do think that by establishing better, healthier habits when I'm kind of like, stable, like it's going to change some things for me. So the thing that I mentioned about, my anchors, so I want more anchors, and I want like these anchors to go deeper. Like I want to be able to also like to write even when I'm, because sometimes it's hard for you to just find inspiration, but when I have these moments where, things are working out, I want to really work on that. But also I want to establish a habit, so that even when things are not going well, like I still want to be working on my novel. Maybe I'm not going to, like be writing things, but there is, like the possibility of like me maybe formatting the book or something. I want like to kind of like use every moment I have. I want to, I want for things to, even when I'm a little depressed or like a little manic, because actually when I'm like a little depressed and a little manic, like I think that I can still kind of like produce, I can still, work on my words. So, I want to kind of like keep it there. Of course, like being kind to myself, because there are going to be moments where I'll struggle, and that's okay. That is not the end of the world. I'm kind of apprehensive because, if an episode comes, like, it can really fuck up my schedule, like finishing this book. But, like I want a controlled environment, basically. I want to find balance, because when I'm manic, I have a lot of energy, I get very excited, like I do a lot of things, I go out a lot, and so like I want to find like balance of me still having my moments where I go out, but not necessarily it being all the time. The same way that when I go depressed mode, I kind of like I just have no energy, and then I don't do much. So I kind of like I want to establish some guidelines for what is acceptable and what isn't, because because even I want to kind of like plan ahead for when I have these moments. So for example, like if I get excited, I get manic, and I want to just do everything, I want to have like some prepared things that I can do, because that way I'm like it feels like I'm doing something, doesn't feel like I'm going crazy. Same way with like when I'm depressed, like so if I have no energy, so maybe I can focus on consuming some type of content that will make me inspired to write, or is going to give me ideas, or it's going to get me in the mood to do write that. And I already have like this kind of like stock of things that I can do in both situations, and I don't know, try to make the best out of like these moments when I am going through episodes. Naturally it's kind of, I'm planning ahead, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'll be able to kind of like get things done when the episodes come, but it is a worthy effort, basically. I do think that like maybe I won't be able to do everything that I planned, and things are not going to go according to plan, but I think that is a way for me to try and like reclaim some of my power when it comes to the situations. I do think that from now on, like my episodes, they're not going to be as bad, simply because like I've kind of like found stability in my personal life when I'm like in the middle, when I'm like stable, and life has been great to live lately, and I want it to continue to be so. I don't know what as I mentioned this, I already said this, like I don't know what is in store for me, I don't know what's going to happen. Whatever it is, I want to make the best out of it. So like things are going to happen that they kind of like they're out of my control. So I think it's important for you to adapt, because I feel like adaptability is very important, trait for you to have in general, like regardless of what you do or who you are. Like it's important for you to be able to adapt. And I will say that I've been having good examples of like me adapting lately, and I just want to keep this up. I want to be able to make the best out of any situation, even if it is bad, even if it's just like me kind of like learning a lesson. Like I want things to kind of like work out. I don't think that there's anything controlling, many forces and higher powers like controlling things, but I do want to have this belief that things are going to work out in the end, because I'm going to adapt, I'm going to come up with a solution, I'm going to be able to, reframe something, situations, to make sure that, like things don't feel wasteful, because that is also something else that I want. I don't want to feel like I'm wasting my time. I want to be very intentional with how I'm, even like my distractions with like what they are. As I mentioned, I have some, cheat codes that I have. There's like, for example, when I'm consuming entertainment, there's some things that, as I mentioned, that can be very helpful and very, productive. They can kind of like help me, for example, put in the mood to write, and that is kind of what I want. Like I want, as I said, to, and also, of course, like there are certain things that are like important to me, but I want to learn, basically. I want to, I think that, because I went from being in a state where I just was trying to learn anything and everything, and I was also struggling, so I wasn't really succeeding always, but I kind of want in the future to, so I think that I went from like one extreme of trying to make everything a learnable, situation, to like being like, I don't want to learn anything. And this is not just, my academic life, it's just like me going with the flow and not, necessarily kind of like not properly reflecting on some things. And like right now I'm back to learning. I don't want things to be excessive. I don't want to feel like that way dragging me down, that like I have to learn. I just want things to come out, to happen organically, like naturally. I think that is something else in general. Like I want to just let things be. I'm gonna do my part, I'm gonna do what I can, and I'm going to kind of like work on myself and on like the things that are important to me. But like I want to be open. I think that is in general another way of putting it. I want to be open to knowledge, new experiences, but to new knowledge, new things that are kind of like coming my way. As I said, like I don't want to feel like I'm wasting my time, and I think sometimes like distractions, they are kind of like the way to go. Because also like hobbies, I think that I've had some hobbies that have been interesting. For example, pottery is a good example. Unfortunately I had to stop, but like while it lasted, it was pretty good. It was something that made me kind of I don't know, it felt like productive. It felt like I was basically making something. I think anything that you get this sense of satisfaction of like, oh, I made this. Like it can be very powerful feeling that gets you to it gets you going basically, and gets you want you to do more. So I want to do more. I want to do more things like with my hands, have more activities. So it can be painting, it can be accessories, it can be instead pottery. I just want to feel because that is a really important feeling for you to have, like that you made something, you built it from like the ground up, like started from like square one, square zero, started from zero, and now you have like a final product. Like that is a very interesting feeling that I would like to replicate. I don't know where else I can go. I mean, like writing is pretty much that, you're building something. So I'm like but I want more things that like I feel that way. Baking is a good example. I did have a little phase this year where I was baking, making this dessert, and that was pretty fun. Like that gives you satisfaction, so maybe I can do more of that. The other day I was looking at a banoffee recipe, and it's very complicated. I didn't really have the ingredients, all of them, so I didn't really do anything, but maybe in the future I can make it, because I really like it. And like there's some places you can find like banoffee flavored things, and I like those a lot. But I would like to have an actual banoffee, because I think there's only just one place that I have found some like actual banoffee, although even then it was kind of like a banoffee mousse, so it's not necessarily where I was, like, but it was delicious. But I want to do things that make me feel kind of like fulfilled, because writing is something that makes me very fulfilled, but like it takes a little while for you to write a book. So I need some more short stuff short-term stuff, to get me going. And I don't know, like I don't know exactly what, but I have been, like noticing that I've been like, really like my brain has been working well, really working out lately. Where like maybe I don't have a solution right away, but the solutions, they're coming, and I'm doing my best with what I'm given. And I think there's also something that I want for myself, not just for the next year, but feel like because that's something, one of my biggest fears when I was younger is that I was wasting opportunities. I wasn't really working as well as I possibly could, and that made me very scared. That I was letting opportunities go, and I think that I went from one extreme to the other. I hold up my dad. My dad was just telling me that, we're going to leave in some minutes. Actually, I don't know what time it is. It's going to be 10 to 11. Just kind of like conclude what I was saying. I don't want to look back and feel like I wasted my time, that I'm wasting my life. So that is, like one of the big things driving me these days. I want to look holistically at, like the big picture, but also I want to look like at every day. Every day by the time I go to bed, I want to feel that, like I'm not wasting my life, that I'm, that I'm doing a good job at, just existing. And I want to feel excitement every day. It doesn't have to be over anything big, but I do want every day to bring me joy, because I think that is important, for you to feel, not only fulfillment, but joy. Because the thing about joy is that it can come from fulfillment, like there is a direct, connection there, but also like joy doesn't have to have a point. It can just be a feeling, it can just be, some sensation that you have. And I think it's important for me to kind of like every day have a little moment to myself. I also like, I think this is already happening like naturally, but I want, to reflect. I want, introspection. I think that I have a tendency to just, looking inwardly and trying to do better. So I just want to keep this up. There's no indication that I'm going to stop, because this has been, this has been me since I was a teenager. Like there's something that mental health professionals that I've, worked with have always noted, that like I have a really good notion of what is happening, and of, like what is happening, but also like how things are happening, and the connections that you can make within your head about, like why you are a certain way, why you react some way, and how like given like how life is. So I basically want my life to be fulfilling. I mean, everybody wants that, so like that's not great, but like I think that I need fulfillment from like different areas, because just having fulfillment from like one part of the entirety of my life, like that is not going to be enough. I think I've said before about like my anchors. I think I need an anchor in every area of my life for me to really, it's kind of like when you're building a tent, like you have to kind of like have different points they're like keeping it down, and that's basically going to be me. So I want my academic life to be fulfilling, I want my professional life to be fulfilling, I want my social life to be fulfilling, I want my hobbies and interests to be fulfilling. I want to what other areas? I have my private life, like my personal life, like I want my mental health to be fulfilling, because that is, also something that is very potent. It's just like how, like you improving mental health wise can, make a huge difference in your life. And it can feel like fulfilling just in itself. It can feel like, okay, I have been able to, advance. I've been able to overcome this challenge, this difficulty that I have, like this bad tendency, this bad habit. And that just makes me more excited to live, because it means that like my quality of life is increasing, and also that there's hope for the other things I'm struggling with. If I can, like work on myself like that, things are going to flow better. But yeah, I think that's it. Like that's kind of like some of my plans for the next year. A lot of this, they are also like, not only for the next year, but for like the next decade, next decades. I think I want to just keep it up. And as I mentioned, because I think yesterday I was talking about more specifics on what I wanted, but like I think that like I guess like these are my resolutions. This is what I want for myself, and I have full confidence that I'll be able to do it. And also like I think I'm being way gentler with myself, because when I was younger, like if I didn't feel like I had done anything during like the day, I had this self-hatred, like this anger, this anguish towards myself. And these days I'm like, okay, if I didn't produce as much, let me just try again tomorrow. I think this is a good mindset to have, because some days are going to flow perfectly, some days you're going to struggle, and you have to withstand the struggle. It's pretty much what I meant with resilience, because when I'm depressed and I'm already like trying to giving up on life, like any little thing small thing can make or break my fortitude. So I want to be stronger when I'm stable, because I think that is going to translate into me being stronger when I'm going through like an episode. So strength and self-control, very important, both with mania and depression. And I think that as I said, by strengthening myself when I'm like either here or here, I can kind of like deal better when like these challenges they come. I think there's that. Bye.